About 2 years after my husband died in the World Trade Center, I got brave and, with the coaxing of a couple of friends, decided to post a profile on Match.com, which was absolutely terrifying since I hadn't dated since I was 20. And I was now, how old have I been? I guess it was about 30, 37, 38, I don't know. And I had 2 little kids. I had no time off. There was sort of none of the divorcee kind of, the kids go away for every other weekend or whatever it was. I had kids 24/7. So I got some responses, and I decided to go on an actual date. And I was completely nervous. It was a sort of coffee shop date. And I sat in the car for probably 10 minutes before, kind of trying to psych myself up to go into the coffee shop. And I looked down at my hands and realized I was still wearing my wedding ring. And I panicked. I didn't know what to do. And so I decided to yank off my wedding ring, which was actually really hard to do, and put it on my other hand. But I had the little, almost like it's like a little white mark where the ring had been. So I feel like it was pretty obvious that that's what I had done. And I went into the coffee shop and sat down and met this guy. And I realized I was in this rat maze of questions that I hadn't anticipated, that kind of go, so you're single, you're not divorced, you have a couple of kids, oh, so you're widowed. And then the inevitable question goes, so how did you die? And then I realized, I'm going to have to tell this guy in the middle of the coffee shop, I'm going to have to drop this bomb on him. And so I dropped the bomb, the 9/11 bomb, on this poor man. And just to see the face where he's trying to figure out what on earth to say and take it all in and process it all at the same time. And it just became this thing that I had to wrestle with whenever I went on a date. And I learned ultimately to somehow find a way to tell people up front before we met in person. And it got easier after I wrote a book and had a website. I could just send them a link and go, all right, if you still want to join me, let me know. So it was, it was difficult territory dating as a widowed person, because, as I say, when you have kids 24/7, there's not a lot of, unless you're hiring babysitters all over the place, there's not a lot of freedom. And I think in the single mom dating world, there is kind of a lot of judgment around when to introduce the kids to the person you're dating. And for me, it was really a difficult one, because I'm already riddled with guilt that I'm dating at all. And then on top of that, I'm riddled with guilt about, if my kids meet this person and then it doesn't work out, and then this person exits their life, what sort of damage have I done? Another man leaving their orbit once again, and what does that do to the kids? And just so much guilt. But in the end, I just kind of felt like this was real life. I had to live my life as well as my kids' lives. And I felt like, any interaction that they had with a male figure was going to be positive, generally speaking. And that, and they always learned something from the people that I dated, one way or another, less so as they got older, but it was, I think, ultimately a good experience. I don't think they suffered too many consequences when the relationship ended. So, but easy to say, who knows, if damaged them, they'll be in therapy for the rest of their lives. It was a mess. It was messy, you know. There was no getting around it being a nice, clean, easy experience. It was widow, you know, parenting through widowhood is a messy experience. There's just no two ways of changing that. Um, so I had to just sort of make it okay for myself and kind of forgive myself, I guess. The you know, the general wisdom out there about introducing kids and that kind of thing. But um, dating as a 9/11 widow was, I don't know, I want to say it was different, but maybe it wasn't. I mean, any widow dating is going to run into the rat maze of, oh, and how did they die? And then you get into the big story, and you know, then you get the looks of sympathy, and then you get the looks of like, how the heck do I get out of this date? Um, so, you know, do I really want to, you know, be with someone who has this massive ghost in their closet? It's an awkward thing it's a lot to ask somebody to step into this role of, you know, of partner and potential parent, and, you know, having to live in the shadow of this other spouse. And it's a really big ask. And ultimately, I wasn't particularly successful at it, which is probably why I live alone in a chateau in France. But I think overall, I met some really great people, and so it was ultimately a good experience, and I had some really fun adventures. So I can't complain. Anyway, I just wanted to give you sort of a quick overview on the dating. I mean, I could do so many dating, probably do a lot of dating episodes, but I'm not dating anymore, so it's kind of harder to reach back. I've written a lot about it, so if you want to go to my website, it's abigailcarter.com. You can read about it. But I'm curious, I mean, does that stigma still exist? Is there a stigma around introducing children to the person you're dating, you know, before 6 months or whatever the timeline that society deems is correct? I don't know. Curious to see if that still exists. So let me know in your comments.